Hey there HHD students, my name's Andy, I'm a VCE Health and Human Development teacher. In this short video I'm going to look at answering the 2020 VCE HHD Exam Question 10. Before we dive into question number 10, just a reminder over at the Health Resources Hub YouTube channel, a new video like this one is coming out each day between now and the HHD exam this year. You can subscribe with the button in the bottom corner of the video there. Please let your HHD friends know they can do so too to get access to all of those videos. I'm running the 2 ACE HHD exam preparation sessions this September break. You can book a spot to those at book.acedvc.com and you'll get your notes posted out to you. Just a reminder, there's all of our social media links if you'd like to follow us and get alerts to new videos coming out each day, as well as HHD exam tips, and also our email if you've got any questions. In the 2020 exam, question 10 was worth 11 marks, and it started with this table here as the stimulus material. And so you can see there was a range of countries and a range of data then for each country provided. A was asking you to identify one country that would be considered a middle-income country and use data from the table above to justify your response. So probably the easiest way of doing this would have been to look at the GNI per capita in the far column there, and you'd see that Mexico easily falls into that classification as a middle-income country, and also Fiji, so you could have used that data. Or you could have also looked at some of the other data, such as the maternal mortality ratio, and you could have mentioned there that Mexico's maternal mortality ratio of 33, was approximately in the middle of a high-income country like Australia, which was down at 6, and a low-income country like Afghanistan, which was up at 638. So you just had to justify your selection, and Mexico and Fiji were the best options to choose. Okay, you can also see here that B was worth 3 marks, and it asked you to use data from the table to discuss how access to basic drinking water and basic sanitation services could have an impact on health status. Now, I always try to say to my students, use the obvious data, if you're given a question like this, to make it easy for yourself to answer a question. So if you go back here and have a look at this table, you'll see here access to basic drinking water services and basic sanitation for Afghanistan were quite low at 67% and 43% respectively, and then their life expectancy was also quite low. So to answer this question, I would be commenting on that data and linking that to life expectancy as an example of health status. And you can see they've done this down here in the high scoring response that was provided. So they said here, not having access to basic drinking water and basic sanitation would increase the risk of contracting infectious diseases such as cholera and typhoid, which can lead to premature death. Afghanistan, who only has 67% of people with access to basic drinking water and 43% of access to basic sanitation services, will therefore have a lower life expectancy and a higher premature death rate than a country such as Australia, where 100% access to both sanitation and basic drinking water services. So you can see there they've used that data that really stood out and linked that into examples of conditions and premature death, and then life expectancy. So that would have been a response that would have achieved you 4 marks. You can see here C was then a 6-mark question, so quite a large number of marks, and it was asking you to describe how poverty and inequality and discrimination based on sex could have an impact on health status and health and well-being. Now, if you get a question like this, you need to make sure you address all aspects of the question. So for each of poverty, you need to link to both health status and health and well-being. And then for inequality and discrimination based on sex, you also have to link to health status and health and well-being. You couldn't just do health status in one and health and well-being in another. You had to do them both in each part of this question. So make sure you always read a question really carefully and address all aspects to obtain full marks. Now you can see here 15% of the state was able to obtain full marks, and they mentioned in the examiner's report that common errors included providing vague examples relating to poverty or inequality and discrimination based on sex, and linking to a dimension or health status indicator instead of linking to both. So that's similar to what I was just mentioning then. You can see there they've given an example of a high scoring response. So for poverty, mentioned that individuals in poverty are unable to afford essential resources such as food. That causes them to become malnourished and weaken their immune system, causing them to be more susceptible to disease and negatively impacting their physical health and well-being. And then they've said by being susceptible to diseases such as cholera, individuals are more likely to contract this, contributing to increasing mortality rates. So you could roll your example, from poverty into a dimension of health and well-being, then into an example of health status to make sure you got the 3 marks. And then you can see for inequality and discrimination based on sex, they've given an example where they talked about that might cause women to be excluded from society, and that might make it more difficult for them to maintain relationships with others and have positive communication, which would negatively impact their social health and well-being. Then they've said the lack of relationships reduces their individual support they can receive, and that might contribute to the development of mental health conditions such as depression and increased morbidity rates for this. So you can see once again they've sort of rolled on their answers from health and well-being into health status, and make sure they've used a health status term as part of their answer. Okay, hopefully you found that video useful. Just a reminder, the Health Resources Hub YouTube channel, ACE HHD exam preparation sessions, our social media link, and our email. Thanks so much.